Yes. Okay. Good. Good.
So much better. What if we just change the negatives and negative values here?
So the code that I showed you for that allows you to get your latitude, longitude, you have to substitute these values that I showed you. So instead of hard coding these values, you have to put it with
these values
with the navigator. Yeah. So you have to include this code somewhere in this code
okay.
to make that happen.
What is the formula?
And that before you wrote this line, there's another line of code that said let my array equals empty array.
Okay.
And then instead of this line, you could say my array equals data. And then
I can manipulate that array.
And then after, yeah, and then, well, so as soon as you say my array equals data, then now this data that it got that it fetched is now inside your variable. And then so after that line, okay, you have another line. So it's still within the same brackets. Actually, you need a squiggly bracket here, and then you need a squiggly bracket there. So after that E semicolon, next line, then you put in the
Array name dot.
the JavaScript code that Google gave you.
Okay.
Because, and then instead of, you know how they hard coded the latitude and longitudes with actual numbers?
Yeah.
So instead of those
Like
numbers, instead of those numbers,
Like here's
yeah.
numbers.
So erase those numbers and now put
And
in.
array dot word dot.
Yeah. Show of hands. Who here has heard of lynda.com? Yeah, all of you. All right. So as I was saying before about the GraphQL, I just quickly searched Lynda, and the one way you can access it is through a website of the library website under databases, under L. You'll see Lynda there. I think you have a link in your portal as well. But once you're there, you can search for anything you want, and I think GraphQL is there, learning GraphQL. So this is, and when was, let me just see, when was this created? 2018, yeah, it's pretty recent. So yeah, I highly recommend it. And by the way, when you graduate from here, even though you may not have access to our subscription to lynda.com, you still have access to lynda.com through here. As long as you live in Barrie, I suppose. Barrie Public Library also has access to Lynda under digital library, was it? Let's see here. There it is, lynda.com. So if you live in the city of Barrie, work in the city of Barrie, you can get a free public library card for Barrie. And you can view the videos on Lynda. Or if you don't live in Barrie, whatever public library you're in, whether it's Toronto Public Library or whatever, they should have Lynda as well. Okay, so let's try to accomplish that goal of incorporating the coordinates that we got from this into the Google code that it gave us here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this code, paste it into a new web page, open it up, see that it doesn't work because my API key is not there, put in my API key, see it work, then try to change these hard values into the stuff that I get through what I taught you earlier. So let's just copy that code. Let us, where am I now? This is, yeah, so let's create a new, let's call it, I don't know, Google map.html. All right, so let me see, if I were to open that up, it should not, well, actually, maybe it'll kind of work, but give me some kind of error. Desktop, week09, Google Map. Let me see what it gives me. Okay, so I need my API key, which I think I showed you earlier how to get that, so I'll get my own API key. Where's my credentials? Credentials. Oh, create credentials? Yeah. Oh, create credentials, API key. There it is. Yeah, sure. Hopefully that'll work. Paste it in here. If it works. Now if I refresh, hopefully something will happen. Let me go back to a different API that I created the other day. Let me try this one. Maybe I forgot to enable something. I don't know. I just need it to work. Good. So it's working. Once your API key is working, it should look like this. However, notice that the code I'm using is the hard-coded values that was given to me. So I need to change that. So this is the code I copied. I want to change these hard-coded values into my values where I currently am. So how do I do that? Let's take a look. So here's what I taught you earlier, navigator.geolocation. Now the tricky part is how to place the code inside where. So may I suggest that in this script here, or okay, may I suggest this? If I were to paste this code right here, okay, this is where the whole asynchronous thing comes in. My data, my coordinates are in here, data, right? So I want to use those coordinates inside here. How do I do that? One way is to move this code right here. I erase my console data for a second. Is this all in there? Should. Oh, hold on. I think I did. Oh, my bad, my bad. Okay, time out. Notice here is a function called initmap. The question I have for you is, how is this function being run when I don't see anywhere a code that says initmap anywhere? Like I don't see that. I don't see that anywhere. Where is the answer to my question? How is that code? Where is initmap being run? Was that? Say again, sorry. Yes, correct. So in the SRC, at the very end, it says callback equals initmap. That means that this piece of JavaScript code will extrapolate whatever's after this equal sign, take that string and run it, which assumes that there is already a function called initmap. So now it's going to run this. So now that we know it's going to run this, where should I put this line of code? Inside the function. Here. Okay. But I still have a problem. The coordinates are lying in here, and how do I extrapolate that coordinate so that I can put it in here? As it's written right now, that's impossible. So let's move this line of code, these lines of code, inside the body of this function. But I don't want -34. I want, let's see here. It's going to be data.coords.latitude, I think. Instead of this, I want data.coords.latitude. Instead of that, I want data.coords.longitude. And I just happen to know that I want the zoom. I'm just going to make a closer zoom, which I happen to know is 17 because I played with it the other day. So this should give me like a very close view of where we are, where I am right now, hopefully. So let me refresh it and see if it works. Notice it's wanting to ask for my permission. Yes, get coordinates. And there it is. Oh, okay. So this is okay. It worked, but because Google API only gives you like 10 requests a day or a week or a month or whatever, that's why I see this for development purposes only. If I didn't use up my requests playing around the other week, then it would have been nice and clean. Okay, but it did work. So it is focusing on where I am right now. So that's neat. So you now know how to get coordinates from your browser. Here's an experiment for a future time for you to play with. Instead of get current position, you could do this. Also this, geolocation.watch position. What that will do is it'll run every time your latitude longitude changes. So you could possibly think of ways to use that to design maybe a web page that tracks you. Okay, so that was just a fun little thing. Before we move on, any questions before we move on to something else? Okay, so in Blackboard, I just opened up or revealed or made available this link right here, vote page. So go to that page and take a look at it. And what I'm about to get into now, well, you'll see in a second. Open that link up, and you should see something like looks like this. Okay. I want you to examine the source code for that, which I will pull up. Let's see here, open folder. Oh. So I basically have like 4 forms here. And it's doing a post request, which is not opposite of get, but it's like get, except the difference is if it was a get request, you'd see the parameters like in here somewhere with question mark, name equals a. That's the get request. But post is, you don't see that at all in the URL. It's kind of hidden inside the request body and transmitted. And so what's happening here is it's going to go to this PHP page, which I'm going to show you next. And it's going to extrapolate the values, basically what you clicked on. Okay. So let me show you that PHP page here. Actually, even before I show you that, I'm going to show you this demo. So what I'm going to do is, on my page here, I'm going to change this vote to demo1.php, just to remind ourselves how PHP kind of works here. So let me open up that version. I believe if I click on the A button, it should go to demo1.php. Let me just verify that. If I right click this, inspect it, it should go to, yeah, demo1.php. Okay, cool. So here's what demo1.php looks like. Just to remind ourselves how PHP works. It's a form submission, and it's through posts, so that's why we say $_post there, and it's looking for this string in order to get the value from it. Question, to remind ourselves, where is this string coming from inside the form? What attribute? Name field, okay? And then with that comes the value, A in this case, and that A is now stored in this variable. So I should see by the vote is A, if I click on A, right? So let's see if that works. Click on A, there it is. What is A? Okay, let me substitute back to what it was before. It's vote.php. Let's take a look at that vote.php page. So here's the exact same thing. But now I decide to insert your vote inside a MySQL database. Let's take a peek at that MySQL database now. I'm going to open up MySQL Workbench. I'm going to log into the MySQL database there. I think I'm already in there. And let us do, let me just comment this up. So let me just run this. Select star from votes, and I get all this. I'm going to reset this. And I created a PHP here called reset vote. So if I go to this URL, it'll just drop the table and recreate the table. Okay. All of you have taken database class, I assume, probably with what's your name now? I forget her name. What's your name? Andrew, right? Did you take it with Andrew? No? Okay. So I'm going to say reset votes.php. There. So now, if I run this query, select star, it should be empty. And it is. It's empty now. Okay. Which I find, as an aside, I find that amazing. I mean, all I did was I went to this URL, and by doing that, I'm commanding another computer to drop their database and recreate a database. And that's still cool to me. Okay, so if I go back to the vote for a second. Now, if I click on, let's say B, I clicked it, vote is B. Let me check if that vote went through, and let's see if it's inserted in my SQL database. Okay, so some of you have clicked on B, I assume. That's why there's more than one there. Let me click on D. No one else click on D. D. Let me just run this. Right. Okay. So some of you are playing around. That's okay. Cool. Check this out. The question I have is, wouldn't it be neat if I were to create my own voting system using PHP mySQL? So I'm collecting all your votes, as you obviously saw. Wouldn't it be neat if there was some way to output the database results in a JSON format that I can then use to make a chart, perhaps, or something like that? So after a few experimentations, I found that this query in SQL right here worked for me to eventually output a tally thing. So after taking Andrew's class, I learned how to do that. And so I get a table. So I want that outputted as JSON. How do I do that? Take a look at my code here called API.php. So I do the exact same query as I just showed you to get that nice summarized table. I execute it. I fetch all the results. And now it's inside this vote. So inside here is basically an array, an associated array with all the different, values. And then here is the magic command in PHP that allows us to change this array into JSON. JSON underscore encode, put that in a variable, echo that out. Let's see it in action. If I go to API.php, it is. Mine should be brainstorming ideas here, right? Or I use this to my advantage to create a chart based on the results. I want to make a mistake here because you will come across this. Let me just read my notes for a second. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, okay, I'm there. I'm going to now that I have a URL from which to fetch, I'm going to try to fetch that data to see if I can just fetch it. That's it. However, here's the mistake that most of you will encounter, and this is the mistake that Scott McCrindle did in his screencast. And I'll show you in a second. I'm going to remove this one line here. Okay. Now, by removing it, let me update that through FileZilla. Okay, where was it? I believe it was. Where was it? Oh. So I updated the API, yes. So let's overwrite it. Okay, so it's now overwritten. If I go to this URL, it should still appear to be the same. Let me see if I can fetch it. Okay, so let me just go to open a new tab here. Fetch this URL. And let's just see what if it works. Oh, this is not the error I was hoping for. This is a different error. As an aside, if you ever get this error, it's because I'm in an HTTP. Google is served over HTTPS, and you can only fetch things that are HTTPS. If I was in a regular HTTP page, then that'd be okay. Let me try it using just a blank page. New file. I have another page like that? No, okay. Oh. Let me just say the same thing. Although I have to serve this in a secure way. Yeah. This should give me the same error, I believe, because I'm not over HTTPS, but I should. Okay, let's run this page. Let's see what we get. Open. Yes, this is the error message that I wanted. Okay, so I guess it didn't matter. You will sometimes see this error message. Access control allow origin header is not present. So in order for you to receive JSON data from another computer, that computer, which is the server, has to have a setting like this on it. It allows any, that's why the star is there. A star represents wildcard, which means anything that allows this to happen. So now that I did this, okay, I'm going to save it. I'm going to push it, and let's see if it works. So now that I saved it, I refresh, push that API. It's now done. Now if I do it again, yeah, so I just have to refresh now. Here, refresh. There it is. Okay. So if you ever get that error of the CORS, what's known as CORS, C-O-R-S, allow whatever, what is it called? Access control, allow origin. That's because the server has to have that setting in it in order for you to fetch it. Okay, so even though it may first appear that you can use this, you can't actually fetch it unless the server has set inside the header, inside the transmission, some kind of setting that allows that to happen. And I'm going to show you a cool extension in VS Code that allows you to see that. Okay, so let me introduce you to this new cool extension. If you go to VS Code and type in and click on the extensions icon and type in REST client, you'll see this. So I already have it installed, but basically this is how to use it. So if I've installed it, let me show you how to use it. I'm going to create a new file. I'm just going to call it test whatever .http. It has to have the .http in order for this extension to work. Here's the cool thing. Let's get Google's web page. You can type in any URL there. Notice when I say get whatever, there happens to hover the send request. Watch what happens when I click the send request and see on the right-hand side the response of Google's server to me. This is the response that you normally never see. This is what's happening in the back and under the hood. I clicked it. This is the response for any web page you go to. You get some kind of header that you never see unless you know, like, okay, here 200. What does that mean? It means okay. That means your request to get this web page succeeded. Has all this information that you never see, and then it finally gets to the Google web page. So all of this is the HTML code of Google. So if I were to go to Google's web page right now, you know, right-click that page, click View Source. This is what I would see. But what I want to pay attention to here is this option. This is called the header. This has all the different options. So let me try the same thing with my API. This one here. See what happens. Go get that. Send request, click. Okay, now look. See this? Access control allow origin star. That is there because I specified that back in here. Because I set that, that is now here, which allows me to fetch it. Okay. Whereas for Scott McCrindle, if you ever looked at Scott McCrindle's screencast, he actually uploaded his JSON file on here. What was it? SMC. There. So this is the same exact JSON file that I uploaded earlier. He uploaded it to his own. But if you try to fetch this, it won't work. Why? Because go to that and say send request, you'll see that you don't have the allow option there. That's all you can. Okay? That's all I want to say for that. But that is a common error. So if you get that error, the solution is you have to have this setting on the server. Let us go. So let's go back to what we were doing before. So we have this API now that gives us all of this. I want to transform this JSON data into a chart. So I gave this little link earlier in the announcements, asking you to explore this, chart.js. So here is a page. There's all kinds of charging libraries out there. And so if I were to just simply copy and paste this code and include their script library, which is somewhere, then I should be able to see a simple graph of this. Well, I'm going to try that now. I'm going to copy and paste this code. I'm going to include their script library. I'm going to see the results of their code. I'm going to modify it so that it accepts this JSON so that you can then vote live and I can see the results live every time I click on refresh. Yeah? What time is it now? Okay, cool. So let's try that out. So I'm going to copy this whole thing and put it in a new thing here. So I'll call it my chart.html. Body. I have to include their library. So under getting started, I should see some kind of script tag. There it is. Include that script tag inside their page, and that's it. Let's load this page. Let's see what happens. Let's load it up. Where to go? Where to go? I don't know where to go. Where did it go? There it is. Oh, well, there it is. Okay, I only need 4. I don't need 6. Let's look at the code to try to get rid of 2. Okay, well, I see 6 things here. Let's get rid of 2. I see 6 things here. Let's get rid of 2. I see 6 things here. Let's get rid of 2. Will that work? Is that all I need? Oh. Sorry? Oh, yeah, up here? The labels. Yeah. So let's get rid of that. Okay, I got rid of 2. Let's see if that works. Refresh. Oh, I think I had a syntax error somewhere. What was that? Thank you. Okay, what am I doing here? I'm missing a, oh, right. It's an array, isn't it? Like this and like this. Yeah? Okay, thank you. Let's refresh it now. Good. It's a little bit too big for my needs. I think I'd like it smaller. Is there a way to do that? Oh, look at that. Let's try this. 200 and 100. I don't know. Let's see. Okay, great. So I want to insert the votes that you enter on your web page, which I get through the API, through JSON, and put those results here. How do I do that? This is what I'm going to do. Here, I'm going to use fetch. Oops. Let's fetch that URL that I had. Okay. I'm going to cut that out, fetch that. Great. Then we get some kind of thing. We have to parse it, so it's JSON usable, object usable, and then we get the data. Now here's what we have to figure out what to do. Let's just console log the data, right? Just to see if we get it. And everything else can stay the same for now. Let's refresh it. Let's open the console and refresh it. Refresh. I should see data. There. This is the data that's coming back to me. Wow. Okay, 39. So how do I insert this data into here? So obviously the values are coming here. I want to insert my tallies in here. So just like the geolocation one, one solution is to move all of this code inside this here, right? Because as it stands right now, if I were to say, data dot, what is it? Data dot, whatever. I think it's an array, right? It's an array. So if I want, so maybe the first one will be data 0 dot tally. Next one will be so this would be 1, 2, 3. Hopefully. Data is not defined. Reference error. You're right. Right. No, that makes sense. That is not defined on line 28. Why? So here it's complaining is I don't know what JavaScript, the browser is saying, I don't know what data is at this point in time. Why? Because at this point in time, there is no such thing as data because it's been delegated to the Tim Hortons kitchen still being made as a panini. Right? So that means I have to put all of this code inside here so that once I do get that panini, then I can do something with it. So let's move all of this code. All right. It works. No errors, that's a good sign. 39 votes, that's a good sign. So let's try this out. I'm going to reset my thing. It'll drop the table, it'll recreate the table. I'll ask each of you to vote. I'll keep on refreshing to see a change, hopefully. Yeah? Right out. So let me reset this thing. Votes. 0. If I refresh, it should be a 0. There, nothing. Okay, go. I'm going to keep on refreshing, and then we should see it. And click a bunch of stuff. Now, there we go. So I got, yeah, and notice how it keeps on changing every time I refresh, because you guys are clicking away. Cool. Now, how can I make this better instead of me clicking refresh every second? Yeah, yeah, so what method would that be? Yeah, I did cover it a few weeks ago. Set interval. Should I try it? Wait, how is it? 303? Yeah, let's try it. Let's try it. Let's see. Okay, this is off script now. Okay, so let's see, set interval. How that works is I run some kind of function. You know what? I'm going to call this function called like draw chart, and I'll make that in a second. And then after that, I believe it's how many seconds. So I believe it's like 1,000 milliseconds, I think. Let me just double check my syntax, set interval. Interval syntax. Examples, yeah. So set interval, yeah, okay, great. Rest, yes. Okay, good. So draw chart would obviously be all of this code. So what if I just say function draw chart and wrap this whole sucker in a function? Save, and notice the prettier, nicely formatted it for me. Let's see if that works. Yeah, so let me drop it again. There we go. Refresh. 0. Okay, go to it. Let's see it. So I'm not pressing refresh. There you go. Every second it'll go. Look at that. And it's working because I see some changes. Beautiful. Question: how can I make this better in terms of visuality, niceness? I'm not going to do it, but I'm just asking you what what would I make this? How to make this better in terms of animation? Exactly. So instead of animating from the bottom each time, I'd have to figure out some way in the documentation how to animate it from where it currently is to where it wants to go. I'm not going to do that, but that's the next step, right? Always ask yourself, how can I make my code better? Okay, anyways, so that's it for that fun lesson. Let's take a quick 10-minute break before we get into lab 9, which I will reveal shortly. Actually, I'm going to reveal it right now. This is your lab 9. There you go. You have to make Pacman move. And this has to deal with assignment number 3. So I've customized this code to make it very similar to assignment number 3. So we'll get to this after 10-minute break, okay? Let's give me 10. Okay.
The challenge is for the Google Maps. If we just change the longitude and latitude like manually, still shows the country. It's just for the
Again, so if you change it manually, oh, Oh, of course that'll work, but there's no fun of hard coding it in. That's not the point of programming. Yeah. Okay, before I get into the lab 9, I wanted to say a few things as I'm reviewing my notes. I forgot to mention a couple of things. So in that last thing, I collected all the data and put it into MySQL database. Question, are you aware of any databases out there that actually stores the data as a JSON instead of, through the MySQL way or Oracle way or whatever? Are you aware of any databases that accepts JSON as their records? Yes, let's check it out. And you will be introduced to this in your later JavaScript course when you're dealing with Node, called MongoDB, which actually, hold on. I thought it was changed names to MLab now. Yeah, MLab. MongoDB, MLab, pretty much the same thing. I'm going to log in, and I'm going to let you peek inside what it looks like inside. What the oh, what is my thing now? Okay, so I forgot my password. Basically, it looks like JSON in there. So each record is one complete object. That's it. It looks with a squiggly bracket and all. It's there. Now, you might be thinking in your database days, like back, if you remember back in your database days, did they teach you like second normal form, third normal form, like how to design a database correctly? Yes, you remember that terminology? Yeah. So what was the purpose of normalizing your database? What problem? What did it solve? What problem did it solve? Yeah, unique data, right? Because you don't want a case where in one record you have two address fields. Like you want to have a relationship between one table like customer and another table called product, and they're sharing some kind of ID. That way there's no repeated data in either table, right? But in JSON, there is no such relationships. You just put whatever you want. However, you might be thinking to yourself right now, wait a minute, that goes against everything I was taught about normalized form and everything I was taught about designing correct databases. And you would be right, except there is a trade-off. There's always a trade-off in computers programming. And the trade-off is what? What do you think is the trade-off between having a MySQL database output the JSON data versus an MLab kind of database output the JSON data to you? What's the trade-off? What do you think? And it's always, and I hinted this earlier on when I talked about XML versus JSON. It always comes down to one thing. Oh, well, I guess readability would be one, but that's not what I'm thinking of. What was it? Storage? Maybe storage might affect what I'm thinking of. What else? Speed. Yes. So apparently I've heard this. I don't know if this is true. Amazon originally tried to do their Amazon page with something like an Oracle database or a MySQL database, a proper design database, but they scrapped it all for the JSON way because of speed. Yes, that means there will be repetitive data, but it still works. So keep that in mind. What else did I want to mention? Nothing. Okay. So let's open up. So this is what you're going to have to hand in. And I'm going to walk you through most of this. And if you do what I do and hand it in, you'll get 50%. And if you finish the last 3 bits of it, you get your full 1%. Okay, so download Lab 9. Put it somewhere. Let's see here. Show in folder. Extract here. So you open it up, you see this. You might be asking yourself, how is it animating? Let's take a look at it. Where did I put it? It's in my desktop 9. Is it somewhere here? I think it's this one. Yeah. Yes. Okay. So the reason it animates is because of something called animation keyframes, where it's taking from 0% to 100%. It's doing some something, and you're applying this chomp animation keyframe in this line here. So every 0.4 seconds, it infinitely does what it does. Okay, so forget that. That's not the point. The point is this. So I've designed this lab to be very similar to your assignment number 3. And if you read the comments here, basically you just have to fill in the rest. So I've already given you the pseudocode for a second. And so what's going to happen is Pacman is going to wait for you to press an arrow key. So upon arrow key down, you have to figure out which direction did I press, and that will be the purpose of this function. As soon as you find the direction in this function, you're going to set Pacman's new coordinates to where it ought to move before it moves. And once Pacman's X and Y coordinates are set to where it ought to move, then you go ahead and move it by using the tween max thing to animate it. Okay, so I'm going to carry you through that. I'm going to fill in most of it, and it'll up to you to fill in the rest, which should be pretty easy. Okay. However, what time do we have? 3:22. However, remember how in my assignment number 3, I asked you to code in a specific way, and that's what I'm going to do now. So here, where I say, if you'll be awarded 0 if you aren't using my provided template, therefore most or not, if not all your code should stay inside my const puzzle object. So I'm going to do the same thing here. Right now, it's not set that way. I'm going to transition that way right now. So I'm going to say const game. So this is like your const puzzle object. Right? I'm going to move everything in there. So instead of const Pacman this, I'm going to put, first of all, let me shift that up into the object. And now that it's inside the object, I don't need the const anymore. And I don't need the equals anymore. I just need the colon. That would work. And I don't need the semicolon either. Right? I need the comma. There. This one. Second one would be this stuff over here. I'm going to move that over. I don't need the equals. I need the colon. Okay. I'm going to move the function over as well. So let me grab this. And here, now remember what I said last time. In the past, for objects, you would normally find, your function name colon, and then the word function. But a shortcut as of ES6 would be this: find direction parentheses and then whatever. And then same thing for this one, set chords. Let's move that here. And same thing for the move. Okay. Let me move the comments in there as well, just so. Coordinates will go in here. And this one will go here. Don't need this anymore. I moved everything inside the object. This is what it looks like. Did I just hear saying someone slow down? Okay, slow down. Again, it's being recorded. Double check on your screen that I'm recording this properly, though. Okay. And this line here, I'm going to move this into a new function called init. Okay, so I'm just going to create a new initialize function. Or I'll just say init, whatever. I'm going to move this in there. Just to make it simple, I'll say start at x and y equals 0. All right, so let's load the page, except we'll just make sure there's no errors when I load the page. So let me refresh here, refresh, inspect my console, always inspect the console to see if there's any errors. No errors, that's a good thing. I want to point out one thing, because in your assignment number 3, you do have this one line called tweenmax.set. I just want to show you what set is used for. So if I say, start at 100 by 100. I saved it. I'm going to refresh. As soon as I refresh, take a look at where Pacman ends up. Okay, here we go. Refresh. Oh, am I even doing the right thing? Hold on. Index.html. Am I in the right? Wait, hold on. I have to test if I'm even in the right page. Hey. Refresh console. Do I see hey? Yes. Okay, so I'm on the right page. So how come it didn't work then? Oh, right. Okay, yeah, I know why. Okay, why didn't this line work? Tell me why. Because when I moved everything inside the object, you now have to use the keyword this. Where is this Pacman being referred to? It's over here, which is the domino element. But question is, how do I refer to that Pacman inside this function? Answer, it's now this. So, okay, that didn't work either. All else fails, put in game, which is the name of this thing. So game.pacman should definitely, so maybe I'm assuming this is incorrect. No, that didn't work either. Okay, that's not cool. Oh, of course. Oh, of course, yes. Thank you, Piyush. I always get caught sometimes with this. It's in a function. Question, do I ever run this function? No. Where's Gagandeep? Not here. How do I run this function? Game dot what in it? There. That should work. There we go. So all this time. So that means, let me change the game back to this. I think that this should have worked. Okay, so that goes back to my original question. What is the whole purpose of set? Set allows you to place any DOM element wherever you want. Okay, why is that important? Because in your assignment 3, you'll have different puzzle pieces, and you'll say initially, place them here, 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 and here, here, so that you'll have a nice grid. Okay? Let me put it back to 0, 0. Back to 0, 0. Okay, let's figure out the whole key press thing. So I'm waiting for a key to be pressed. How do I do that? I think I taught that earlier. It was window.add event listener, key down. And I want to call this function here called find direction. So the question is, how do I call this function, which is inside this game object, on this line of code, which is outside that game object? Yes, game.findDirection. However, here's the problem that I came across. So let me console log this. Okay. Run it. Run. And I'm going to press up, down. Nothing happened. Why not? Game find direction. Oh, I don't want to run it. Do I? I don't want to run it. I just want to reference it. There. Down, left, right. Notice this is a window. And this kind of refers to what I was talking about before when I had last week I was talking about const person1 equals some object named Kawhi, const person2 equals some object named Kyle, and then I kind of mixed the two functions. And then, so this is what's happening here is this console log, the word this is being bound to window. And it will never bind to the object game. And this is where my other, where's my understanding? There it is. Remember this? I showed you this page last week. What is this? We did all through 1, 2, 3, 4, but I didn't mention number 5, where you can use something called bind or call or apply. I didn't mention this last time only because I've hardly ever used it, and I don't think it's that popular anymore, but there are cases where it's useful, like now. So basically what bind does is it attaches this to equal whatever you passed it in this argument here. So this argument has to be an object. So in my case, if I have a const game equals object, I'm going to say dot bind game. And that should make this point to the game and not to the window. So in here, I'm going to say dot bind as at the game. So now if I refresh and click up, there. Now I got the game object, which means I can work with that. Okay. Great. So let's figure out how to find the direction for this one. Find the direction. So what's going to happen is when I click a key, an event occurs on the browser. You can capture that event just by putting, event here or EVT or E. I'm just going to put E for now. Let's console log what E is. Make sure that I'm going to press up. It captured the fact that I pressed the up key, and here's all the different properties on that. One of them is this one here, E. By the way, as an aside, if you ever need to find out these codes, like key or key code in an easy way, there's a cool website called keycode.info. I don't know if I shared that before. I think I did, where you can press any key. I think I shared this for the drum pad, right? And then it'll tell you all the different stuff. So event.key is arrow up, right? So I'm going to use that to my advantage. I'm going to say event.key. If event.key says arrow up, then I'm going to do something. I'm going to use a switch statement for that. E.key. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you all the different scenarios. I'm only going to fill in the first scenario. Up to you to fill in the rest to get the full 1%. Okay. So obviously arrow would be the next one. By the way, you could say, you don't have to say console log. There's other options like console.error, or maybe even console.info. Those are also valid. Error just to be different. That because I want. So what I'm going to do is for this class, I'm going to fill in the code for this arrow down. It's up to you to fill in the code for the rest, for the arrow left, arrow right, arrow up, and then you'll get your full 1%. So let's see if this works. Let's say, let's just test if it works. Console.log, you press down. Okay. So let's just try that. Let's refresh. If I press down, you press down. Perfect. Now we know it's working. So now the question is, now that I know the direction it's going to, I want to call this function called setCoords, which sets the coordinates to Pacman's new coordinates before it moves. Okay, and why I structured it this way, because assignment number 3 is the same way. You have to structure your puzzle pieces before it moves and then move it. So, question, how do I call this function from within this function, which, by the way, is within this object? So question is, how do I call this function right here? What's the answer? Anyone? Yes, this dot set chords. I'm going to pass in an x and y value. And then basically after that's set, I'm going to call this function called move. So might as well just say this dot move. So that is my logic. That's how I solved that problem. Now it's up to us to put in the details. So for the set coordinates, I want to give it its final destination, so which is an xy value. So currently, its xy value is this 0, 0. So as it moves, I always want to update the x and y value. That's the purpose of this here. So instead of saying, x, y minus 100, which makes the value go down, right? Because if you're subtracting, I believe it, or is it the opposite way? No, it's the opposite way. For the y value, it goes plus 100, right? So question is, how do I access this x and this y? And instead of saying x and y here, how do I reference this x and this y? Instead of saying X here, what do I say? I want to refer to this X. Yeah. Yeah, I heard it. This dot what? Backwards dot X. You are correct. Okay. And this would be similarly. Okay. So let's test this. I'm going to refresh the page. I'm going to press the down arrow, which should increase the Y value by 100. And to test that in the console, I'm going to say game.packCoords to see the object, and I should see this Y value change. Refresh. Down arrow, it should have changed. Let's test it. So if I say game dot, what was it? packCoords. Oh, it didn't change. That's the idea. So why didn't it change? I don't know. Let's figure out why it's not changing. Why isn't this changing? Words, this dot packCoords plus 100, yes. Down. Oh, of course, yeah. Obviously, it didn't change because when I called this function, I didn't really do anything with it. Okay, this is what happens. Okay, here it's late in the day. Okay, great. So let's do something with that. We get an X value, we get a Y value. We basically want to say this dot packCoords dot X equals X. Yeah, that makes way better sense, right? Something like that. Let's see now if that works. Yes. Fresh. Oh yes. Am I forgetting something? Oh yeah. I'm going to get to this in a second. I just want to test if this function works. So try it again. So refresh. I'm going to press down, and then game.packCoords. There it is. Perfect. So now that I'm telling Pacman to move to these new coordinates, now let's move there. So move, which I already called up here, right? So let's do something. I'm going to say tween max.to, which is something you already know from last week. How do I refer to this DOM element? Pacman from within this, from within here. This dot Pacman. It's going to be this kind of alignment. And then comma, and then my options. My options are X colon something, Y colon something. So what's my something? Yeah, so this dot packCoords dot X and this dot packCoords dot Y. Save. That should animate. Down arrow only. Let's see. Refresh. Down. Crap. Pacman doesn't know where to go. Oh, because I pressed the Alt key just now. But why didn't it move? I don't know, because let me think about that. Why? What happened? Set chords. Yes. Okay, that should have worked. That should have worked. Move between max.to this dot Pacman. Oh, shoot. I have to tell how many seconds. 1. In 1 second, do that. So I was missing a parameter, an argument. But again, down arrow, beautiful. Down arrow again, beautiful. So that's like your puzzle pieces, right? Going down, going left, right, whatever. That's it. That's the lab. You hand that in, you get 50%, but to get a full percent, I want you to fill in the rest of the left, right, up stuff, which is basically 2 lines of code for each one, but you have to figure out exactly how to add or minus for each one. Okay? Should help you for assignment number 3. Okay, that is it. That's all I had for today. Any questions? What was that? Just this? You just want to see the screen here? Okay, good. Cool. Hope you had fun. Today was a long day of goodness and funness. Hope you had fun with that. So yeah. So next week will be just ES6 stuff, and yeah. Cool. me stop the recording.